If you're thinking about setting up a revocable trust, this might be the most important video that you watch. Everyone says it's the gold standard of estate planning, but for most families, it's just an expensive illusion that still lands their loved ones in the probate courts. Imagine spending thousands of dollars on a bulletproof trust just for your family to still end up in the exact same court system that you paid thousands of dollars to avoid. In this video, I'm going to break down the real disadvantages of a revocable trust, the hidden fees, the tax myths, the administrative headaches, and the funding mistake that most people are going to make, which will make your revocable trust entirely worthless. Let's dig in. The first one is going to be the hidden dangers. Your revocable trust is just going to be an empty box until you actually transfer your assets into it. This process is called funding, and it requires paperwork with your bank, your local recorder's office, your DMV, and your financial institutions. Most people are going to underestimate this chore completely. Here's what happens all the time. You spend $4,000 on a revocable trust, but you forget to put your brokerage account and your vacation home into that revocable trust. Now, when you pass away and your family is going through the probate process, you have $500,000 of assets that are tied up in the probate courts. Your family cannot sell the house to cover expenses and taxes, and your brokerage account is going to be sitting idle while the market shifts. This single mistake can cost your family six figures in legal fees and lost growth. The result, an expensive, useless document, and your family is stuck in the probate courts for months or even years at a time. The next one's going to be two big lies. That was not the only trap. There are two big myths that people misunderstand about revocable trust. The first one is that revocable trusts protect your assets. It does not give your assets any asset protection. Because you can be the trustee of a revocable trust, you maintain full control over the assets inside of that revocable trust, so you do not get any asset protection for them. If you go through a divorce settlement, a lawsuit, or you have creditors coming after your assets, they can still take the assets inside of that revocable trust, even for debts that you owe when you pass away. And all the assets inside the revocable trust will still be filed on your personal tax return. So all the assets and the income generated from those assets will go on your personal tax return. Therefore, they are still a part of your taxable estate and do not have any asset protection from your liabilities. So a revocable trust is completely tax neutral, does not change how those assets are being taxed. It just changes who owns those assets. The third one is going to be the administrative burden surrounding the assets inside of that revocable trust. So as an example, if you're thinking about refinancing the mortgage on a house that's inside of a revocable trust, your bank might force you to pull that property out of the revocable trust, refinance it, and then put it back into the revocable trust. If you want to buy and sell real estate, you have to update every title for the property. If you want to move brokerage accounts into the revocable trust, it's going to take more forms. And the problem with all this is that each step that you take to transfer assets in or out of the revocable trust could be an opportunity to have a mistake. And if you make any mistakes, those assets can still go through the probate process, making your revocable trust pointless. At our firm, we've done hundreds of estate plans and probate cases, and about 7 out of 10 revocable trusts will still have assets that have to go through the probate process because their families did not transfer those assets into the revocable trust, or they made a mistake doing so, forcing those assets to go through the probate process before they can be distributed out to their family. If you want help setting any of this up, click link in the bio, fill out the form, and schedule a time to talk to someone on our team. So the fourth one's going to be you still need a safety net. So if you have a revocable trust and all of your assets are supposed to avoid the probate process, why do you still need a pour-over will? A trust does not replace your will. The will is going to act like a safety net. So if there are any mistakes made, or you forget to put assets inside of your revocable trust and those assets have to go through the probate process, then the pour-over will take those assets through the probate process and dump them into your revocable trust so that your backup trustee can manage and distribute those assets per the instructions inside of that revocable trust. So the problem is going to be if you mess up the revocable trust and your assets have to go through the probate process, and you spent thousands of dollars on the revocable trust, and your family's still going to have to spend tens of thousands of dollars on the probate process as well. The fifth one's going to be the real decision that you have to make. So who should be thinking twice about setting up this gold standard of an estate planning document? If your estate is really small and you aren't worried about avoiding the probate process, it may not be for you. If you don't have a lot of time and you need to set up an estate plan before you pass away, it may also not be a good idea. That one's going to depend on how quickly you can have an attorney set up your revocable trust and transfer those assets into that revocable trust. If you want to make sure that your assets will avoid the probate process and you can control the management of those assets and the distribution of those assets, and you want to account for incapacity planning in the event that you have a heart attack, a stroke, you have cancer, dementia, whatever it's going to be, the assets inside of that revocable trust will be accounted for, and your backup trustee can step in your role as trustee and take over the management of those assets. If you want help setting any of this up, click link in the bio, fill out the form, and schedule a time to talk to someone on our team.